Good evening to all, and welcome to another new and exciting season of Share Your Story. Share Your Story is brought to you by Palmdale Vision Center. This is now 1 year since Share Your Story started, and Share Your Story is a program that highlights Bahamians in our country who are struggling or who have been challenged with different diseases or conditions, and they're invited on the show just to share and let us know their story, their experience, and what they are dealing with. So we start up again with a new season. And since what we want to say, October of 2019, COVID disease started first in China, and then it spread to the rest of the world. And by 2020 of March, it came to the Bahamas. At that time, it was recognized as COVID-19. Since then, so many different viruses have evolved and changed. And so we're now dealing with Delta and Gamma and who knows what next. But this evening, I am pleased and honored to have a special family in the studio this evening. And this family is going to share with us their journey with COVID. Now, many persons have since succumbed to COVID, but this family can just tell you of exactly what has happened in their lives and what the Lord has done for them. And so I'm not going to do too much talking this evening. I just want to welcome them into the studio, and they're going to introduce themselves, and we're just going to have a discussion, and then we will continue the conversation because we want to use all the time that we have to allow both of them to share their journey with COVID. And then you, our listening audience here in the Bahamas and worldwide, if you have any questions that you may want to ask our guests, just type in your questions and we will seek to try and answer as many questions as possible. So welcome once again to Share Your Story. My name is Dr. Ebby Shera Jackson, and I'm pleased to be your host this evening. And so this evening, I want to welcome two lovely persons into the studio, Mr. and Mistress Errol Joanne Thompson. Good evening. How are you guys doing?
Real well.
Well, thank you.
Thank God.
It's such a pleasure to have both of you here in the studio this evening. First, let me start with Joyanne. Joyanne, tell us about yourself, please. Who is Joyanne Thompson? What do you do? And so on and so forth.
Hi, good night. My name is Joyanne Phyllis Thompson. I am an assistant professor at the University of the Bahamas. I'm also head of department in biology. I am a member of the beautiful School of Chemistry, Environmental, and Life Sciences. I attend St. Anne's Church. I am a proud member of St. Anne's ACW. And I have two wonderful children, Tristan and Errol, and I love them dearly. Some of my, I would say, attributes would be the fact that I'm a personable person. I love engaging with my students, and I like to spend time in the kitchen.
Oh, so you love to cook?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, good family stuff, eh? Wonderful. What are some of your hobbies, Joyanne?
So my hobbies include just spending me time. I like quiet time, whether that's in my car when I'm driving or when I'm home. I also like baking, and I like cooking, and I like spending time with my three dogs, Fury, Zeus, and Lucky.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Wonderful, Joyanne. Thanks for that piece of information. Now to your hubby, Mr. Errol Thompson. Mr. Thompson, good evening again.
Good evening, everybody.
Tell us about yourself.
Sure.
Who's Errol Thompson?
Errol Thompson is a father, a husband, a Mason, an ACM brother. Love cars. My baby's in the garage right now. My pet cars, I call it. I love being in the yard. I love to read. I love to relax. I work at the University of the Bahamas. I'm the chief internal auditor there. And I'm a CPA. And I met Joyanne in university.
Okay.
Never seen her before in my life. One day I was walking, and I saw this squint-eyed girl walking past me, and I said hi. And I heard a Bahamian accent. in Alabama. I always tell people I had to go all the way to Alabama to meet my wife.
Bahamian woman too, eh?
Oh yeah, Bahamian.
How long have you both been married?
We've been married now for 24 years. Our anniversary was August 2nd of this year.
Okay.
24 years.
Congrats. Almost to that, silver gold jubilee. Silver
Yeah,
jubilee.
25 is silver, yeah.
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 Now, Errol, you are also son of a famous doctor who once resided. Tell us, who's that person? Who's your dad?
My father is Dr. Philip Thompson. He died last year, August 28th. So he's been gone a year and a few weeks now. So wonderful man.
He's better known to the Bahamian public as Slimy Thompson.
Slimy.
Yeah, and a Junkanoo, big Junkanoo.
Big Junkanoo. He was actually a co-leader of the Saxons group, the great Saxons group, I should say. And so he was a great artist. He could conceptualize things and put it on paper and then actually create it. I love watching him build costumes. He always built the big costumes. And of course, he decorated his own costumes that he wore. I have a few of his stuff here now. Yeah, and I have some. If you ever come to my house, you'll see two big pictures in my front hallway of my dad in Junkanoo garb, you know.
Yeah, Junkanoo was a major part of his life.
Yeah.
Are you both involved in Junkanoo at all?
We're spectators. I mean, Daddy always asked my brother Dion and myself to rush. We never did it, but I know my two sisters, Philippa and Tamia, they rushed, you know, and my two sisters are true Junkanooers. They take after Daddy. Running in their veins.
Good stuff. Okay. Now, I caught up with Errol and Joyanne this summer. They were in the office. And I had to chat with them on their journey because a lot of persons knew that some of the family members had contacted COVID. So I'm going to start with whichever one wants to start. Tell us, how did COVID enter the family home or come about? What had happened?
I contracted it from another family member. Someone came to the house. But it affected the whole household. My oldest daughter, she's 29, she had it. My son had it, he's 17. And my 22-year-old daughter, she didn't get it for some reason.
Okay.
My mother got it, my wife got it, and I got it. But everybody else, it was like a bad flu. But with me, COVID-19 had a mission with me. It tried to kill me. It started with me.
So when you all contracted it at that point, did you all isolate? I mean, what happened in the house?
Yeah, we isolated in the house. We were in the house and no one came to the house. I mean, if friends came, they left the food outside. We didn't go anywhere. And we all self-isolated, quarantined in our house. But I just kept getting worse, you know?
So tell us what happened with you, Errol. Everybody else was improving or stabilized, but you kept getting worse.
I just kept getting worse.
What sort of symptoms were you having at that point?
I was coughing a lot. And then Joy was checking my oxygen levels, and she just noticed that they were dropping. And I drove myself to the doctor's hospital.
This is how many days later now, since you contracted it? When did you decide to drive yourself?
Boy, I would say probably about...
This was around October 12th, the holiday.
Yes.
Around 2 a.m. in the morning. Well, I would say that experiencing COVID and looking COVID in its face was, that would have been around October 12th, that morning. And so Errol, well, let me piggyback. I think it was around October 11th, 10th, right? October 10th or so. And he went to the hospital because he wasn't feeling well. And they prescribed him with some meds. The doctor told him, well, if it wasn't COVID, would you have come to the hospital? And he said, no. And so he sent him home with the regimen with the zinc and the vitamin D, etc. And so his cough when he came home, his cough got progressively worse.
Yeah.
So much so that he could not sleep. And so instinctively I said, Errol, lay on the bed, lay on your stomach. Let's see if that would provide some relief. And so like every 30 minutes, I would come in the room to check on him. And, because I didn't want to wake him up in case he did fall asleep. And he was up and he was coughing and coughing. And so
I didn't sleep for about 2 nights.
Yeah, he didn't sleep for about 2 nights.
Yeah.
So you could see the fatigue on him. And so I made some breakfast for him that morning. He said, Joanne, I can't eat. And
I don't refuse food.
He does not. He does not. And
now let me ask an important question here, if you don't mind answering. Any comorbidities at this point?
I'm diabetic.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No hypertension?
Yes.
And hypertension.
But it's controlled. It's controlled.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and so thanks to my friend, and I would say, quote unquote, private physician, Dr. Jillian Bartlett, when we were first diagnosed with COVID, she said, Joanne, get an oximeter. And I said, okay.
Explain to the audience, what is an oximeter?
An oximeter is a little device, look like a clothespin that you put on your finger to monitor your oxygen levels.
Right.
And so being obedient as I am when she gives me a directive, Errol actually went and bought it, went and got it. And so I was using the oximeter to monitor his percent saturation. And so I saw a gradual decline in his percent saturation. And I was looking at his breathing rate. Normal breathing rate is between like 14 to 16 breaths per minute. And Errol was breathing like 38, 40 breaths per minute. I automatically knew that he was in distress. And so when I checked his percent saturation using the oximeter, his percent saturation was 69%. Now, we know that, between 97 and 98 is, good saturation levels.
Right.
Because it monitors the levels of oxygen in the lungs. And so I called Jillian and I said, Jillian, this does not look good. She said, Joanne, that can't be right. Take it, do it again. I did it actually 4 times, took averages, same numbers. I was like, Jillian. So she said, Joanne, call the ambulance. I said, okay. So I called the ambulance and I called both facilities, and I was told that there weren't any ambulances available. Princess Margaret told me they couldn't come because there weren't any rooms available. And I was like, y'all gotta be joking. And so so I called, I think it was 611, the number that you dialed to get the police and to get clearance to go on the road. So I called them and I said, I need clearance for my husband. I told them what was going on.
And by this time, we're in shutdown, folks. So
yes, we were shut down. And so she said, the officer said, she came on a little, she's a little antagonistic at first. And so she said, well, why can't you take him? I said, I have COVID. She said, well, I said, I need him to drive himself. Well, why can't someone else take him? Everyone who's in the house have COVID. And then her voice dropped and that level of empathy emanated. And she said, okay. And so I looked at Errol and I said, Errol, I have done all that I could do for you. You need more help. And this was me coming face to face with this monster. And so I said, do you think you could drive? And he said, yeah, I could, I will try. And so I said a prayer and I said, Errol, I will talk to you from you leave this house until you get to doctor's hospital. And I saw him out. This was like 2 a.m. in the morning. His mom was here. Aries was here, but he didn't want anyone to know that he was going to the hospital. And so we were talking and I saw that So stayed outside until that Jeep disappeared. And when he got to the roadblock by St. Anne's, he said, "Thank you, Lord." And I heard him tell the police, "I have COVID. I can't breathe." So they just let him go. And so he was able to park. And if anyone knows the steps of going up to Doctor's Hospital, I was still on the phone with him.
The front steps.
And he said, "Joya, I can't." And I've never heard the end of breathe. And I don't know what feeling came over me. Surely this was surreal. This was an out of body experience. Lord, there's no way this could be happening. And so I heard someone say, "Do you need help?" And that was the first angel, I would say, that God sent. And so I was, I assumed they took him in. I didn't hear from Errol. And then I got a call from the hospital saying that we're looking for Errol. And I said, "But he's right there." And I said to myself, Doctor's Hospital is not going to see my husband if he didn't make did the co-payment or, the down payment. And I said, "Oh God, you tell me my husband is serious." That they're attending to him, not knowing he's there because he's not in the system. And so a weakness came over me. And so around, what that would have been like around 4 something, Errol called. I said, "Oh, thank you, Jesus." And then he told me that he was on oxygen, etc. So
Errol, at this point now, you've checked into Doctor's Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember after that?
Well, I remember a lot. Checked in, they put me they had me in the emergency room by myself. I mean, with the curtain around me and whatnot. And they gave me oxygen. And of course, they took a COVID test. And then they moved me and they put me in a living room. There was 2 people in the room. One person had just left, and I was in the room by myself. And of course, I was on oxygen, and they gave me something for the cough. And I finally was able to sleep. So that was good. I finally got a couple hours sleep. And I woke up and I thought I was feeling better, but they wouldn't take the oxygen off me. I had to breathe with the oxygen. And then I heard them talking about airlifting me. Now, I didn't know. Meanwhile, my wife was arranging that. So I told him, "No, I ain't going nowhere. No one airlifting me. I stand right here." So according to what Joy told me later on, that delayed things by day.
Yes.
Because they were like, the patient don't want to leave. I didn't realize I was as bad as I was. And I remember the day before I was airlifted. They came in the room and the lady put a catheter in my penis, right? I'll never forget that feeling, right? I was like, "Why is she doing this?" Change it. She said, "Oh, just so in case you pee, it'll capture." I said, "Okay." And they knocked me out. Went to sleep. And I woke up 2 weeks later.
So, okay. Now,
so I could fill you in on the 2 weeks while I was sleeping.
I want to ask Joya, why did you decide airlifting? What made you decide or make that decision?
What made that decision? Errol was on what they call high flow oxygen, and his percent saturation was decreasing. It wasn't increasing as it should. There was a critical care physician at Doctor's Hospital. He flies over on once or twice per month. And so I called him. Well, let me put it this way. I couldn't get any information from Doctor's Hospital, and I needed some angels. And so I called Errol's friend, Javon Moss. Well, he was calling me all the time.
It's my good friend.
And I said, "Javon, I can't get anything from Doctor's Hospital." He said, "Joyanne, you'll get a call shortly." So he contacted, I think the CEO, CFO, Mr. DeVoe. And so I got a call from Mr. DeVoe, and I told him what was going on. And he said, "You will hear from the physician shortly." Now, we're in the midst of crisis. I'm understanding that, they're busy and all that. And so I'm thankful for that, for Mr. DeVoe giving me the opportunity, allowing me to speak with the physician. And so the physician told me that my husband is critical, that they are trying an experimental drug with him, and that it would take 24 hours. They need to see what will happen in 24 hours. And he said it could get, he could deteriorate, or there may be slight progress. But I'm just going to be real with you. Your husband is in critical condition. The only thing that I could tell you to do is pray. And so another very near and dear friend, I would call her a sister, Dr. Jazriel Thompson. Jazz said, Joanne, we need to get him out of here. And so that was when the plans were made, and Mr. Thompson said no. So I called him that night. I did not want to stress him.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him that evening. It was around 7. And I said, and as low and as clear as I could be, I told him what his condition was. And I said, Errol, because of your comorbidities, I do not want you to deteriorate any further. Remdesivir is available in the United States. It's not available here. You need to get remdesivir so you could be better. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. And so he said, okay. And I must say, Doctors Hospital did a wonderful job. The insurance company, Bahama Health, did a wonderful job, because we were in the midst of COVID, and so too was Florida. And so Errol had to be critical enough in order to be airlifted, because hospitals weren't readily accepting COVID patients from the Bahamas. And so on October 15th, I was released from the Ministry of Health. I was released out of quarantine. And so I said, okay, well, Dr. Hospital said, do you want to go with him? And I said, sure. So Tristan and I, we went to Dr. Hospital that night, October 15th, and we both did COVID tests. I tested positive, Tristan tested negative, so Tristan was going to go. And I said, Tristan, are you sure you can handle this? Because time she's only, 20? And so 21. And so she said, yes, mommy. I said, okay. And interestingly enough, Dr. Jazz Thompson was right there with us. And so she said, Dr. Thompson, I believe I had COVID before, because she was sick the previous winter
in college
when she went back to school. And she said, mommy, as I recollect, I had the same symptoms Daddy had. It was her and 2 of her friends. And so she asked Dr. Thompson if they could use some of her antibodies to try and heal her dad. And so Jazz said, well, I don't know if we have those capabilities as yet. COVID is still we're learning a lot. It's fluid. We're still learning a lot. And so so she didn't get COVID. And so anyway, so that next morning, Errol was scheduled to be airlifted at 8 a.m. And so I was in contact with the hospital, and a hospital decided to accept him. And I said, thank you, Lord. Holy Cross Hospital.
Holy Cross Hospital.
I'd never heard about the hospital before, but I said, Holy Cross, God, you're trying to tell me something. And so that next morning, he was airlifted. I drove Tristan down to Odyssey, and and the pilots we spoke, and they were, very accommodating, and so I was thankful, that he was able to be airlifted.
A little interjection here. I told my daughter this summer, I said, babes, at least you and I got to fly on a Learjet. That's the only difference. I was sleeping, you were awake.
So at this point now, you were sedated. Harold.
Yeah, I was knocked out. You know, I'm sure the whole Bahamas saw these pictures in Bahamas press. I found out about them when I got back home, and you know, they showed pictures of me knocked out going on the plane. Um, I slept for 2 weeks. I woke up 2 weeks later, not knowing where I was. I dreamt a lot, and when I woke up, I'll never forget. When I first opened my eyes, this person was in front of me with a protective equipment suit on, the little lights in the helmet. I'll always remember the lady saying to me, "Oh, you're awake, you're awake." And I looked around and I saw all these white people.
Do you remember the fact that you were going to be airlifted? Do you remember
No,
anything
no,
like that?
no, did not remember. No.
Okay.
Actually, when I woke up, my memory was gone for a while. You know, I didn't remember much stuff. In fact, when I picked up this cell phone about 2 weeks after I woke up, I didn't know how to use this. I had to sit down and play with
It's
it.
real. It's real,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
real. And I looked out the window and I saw this big sign that said, what's the bank name?
Bank of America.
No, it starts with W. Oh God.
Western
Wells
or
Fargo.
Wells Fargo.
So when I saw Wells Fargo Bank, I said to myself, I'm in America. But another thing I noticed is that my body felt so heavy. I only could move my head. I couldn't move any other part of my body, and I was wondering what's going on. I learned later on my muscles had atrophied because I slept for 2 weeks. So I had to learn to walk all over again. I had to learn to lift a spoon to my mouth. I had to learn, and you know, I was intubated. That's the word.
Mhm.
So, you know, my mouth was open like what, like that. Hey, Joy could tell you what happened in 2 weeks while I was sleeping.
Yeah. So Joy, during those 2 weeks now, he's sedated. What's happening with you all as a family?
Okay, so I want to thank Zena from Odyssey for helping me. Zelda, another angel that God sent. And so
Because the country is closed at this point, so you really can't travel like that.
yes. And so once he got airlifted, well, actually, on the flight, Tristan messaged me because she messaged me and she told me, she said, "Mommy, the critical care pulmonologist said that Daddy's oxygen levels are good." And I said, "What? So we could come back, you know?" So and that was comforting. And then the devil said, you know, in my mind said, you know, not everyone who's airlifted make it. And so I said, you know what? No. And so so they got this safely at Holy Cross. And I came home. That was October 16th. I came home and I felt a weight lifted off of me. And I said, you know, thank God, etc. I said, you know, praised him immensely. And so the following day on the 17th, I had post-COVID symptoms. And I said, what is going on? And so my mother-in-law, she was still here, and because she's from Freeport, and she had to take care of me. So she, you know, gave me the, you know, everything that everything that everyone say to do, we did. The fever grass, the garlic, the mint, you know, the steam, the drinking, the quercetin, zinc, vitamin D, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
that big concoction in the pot and all those different things in it. Right.
Yeah, right. And so so she was taking care of me. So I was like, what's going on? Then that evening, I got a call from from Holy Cross. And of course, you know, being a Bahamian, when you see the hospital calling, you know, not, you know, you don't feel
preparing
good.
yourself. You're preparing
Okay.
yourself.
And so they said, you know, hi, they needed my approval to have certain things done to Errol. So I said, okay. So I gave my approval, and I was like, okay. And I want to also thank Dr. Monique Pratt, because she was also in contact with Holy Cross Hospital, because she knows the liaison doctor, I think Manachak. And the so I couldn't sleep after that. I I couldn't do it. I stayed up, and so every day at a certain time I would call, because by this time now I'd already figured out, the shift. I don't want to call during a shift change, etc. And so in order to get information from them, like I said, I called before the shift changed. And so every day I called, it was the same thing. He's stable. And I got to appreciate what stable meant. Stable meant that he wasn't getting better, but he wasn't getting worse. And then after 4 days, the uh, I think it was the social services department. They called and they said,
the hospital,
from the Holy Cross Hospital, called and said, we just want to talk about Errol. I said, are you giving me any information about his condition? They said, yeah, well, they told me what they could have seen, et cetera, et cetera. And then they said, he's on a ventilator. He's been on a ventilator for 4 days now, and he's not getting any better. So we're calling to arrange, make funeral arrangements. And we're going to have the chaplain call. I know he's from the Bahamas, and I know that, it may be costly, but we just want to assist in whichever way I can. I called my brother-in-law, Dion. Dion was my pillar of strength as well. I called my sister, Valal, pillar of strength. I called Akira Stubbs, my pillar of strength. Bishop Boyd called me at the same time. By the time I wasn't answering telephones, because I only answered certain numbers I knew. But these were the key people, Mr. Algernon Cargo, Javon Moss. These were key people who helped. Melinda Moss, key people. And so I said, I got this call from the hospital. I don't like it. Dion said, oh no. Oh no. Joy, let me call you back. I'm going in the prayer closet. And it's a lady named Jenny May Lloyd. I call her Aunt Jenny. God sent her to me. It's amazing that my another angel, Dr. Reese Hepburn, my boss at UB, and I was in constant contact with her because I had to keep in contact, let my job know what was going on. And she called. I have never met this lady in my life. And so she called Larissa. She said, I'm trying to find someone I think who works with y'all. Her name is, I don't know her name, but I know her husband is ill, and I need to get in contact with her. Well, at that time, I was on the phone talking to Aricia, and she said, Aunt Jenny, let me connect you to her. And when I spoke with her, she said, God, you gotta be. God, no way. You can't work this quick. And she called every day, prayed with me. And so I thank God for her as well. And so I never really got any concrete information, because I told the hospital, my husband is going to live. He's not going to die. It is not his time. I said, when you go inside that room, I told her, I said, you were on hallowed ground, because when you go in there, Jesus is in that room. His healing power, his grace is in that room. I don't want to hear anything about death. I speak life over my husband. And she said, okay. I said, if you don't have any positive news to tell me, please don't call me. And
Did you hear from them again?
yes, I every day. So um the about I would say about 7 days later, Errol had to go on dialysis because his kidneys were functioning at 10%. His lungs were functioning at 20%. So I said, okay, God is still in control. I don't care what those numbers say. And you know, I remember one evening I decided to call in the evening, and I remember the nurse saying, when I saw him, I said, she said, when she saw Errol come in, she said, oh my God, look at this young man. I don't know what he does, but he's going to die because Errol was not a candidate for remdesivir because of his kidneys. And one of the side effects of remdesivir is, it has negative, it can negatively impact the kidney.
Mm-hmm.
And so they gave him convalescent blood plasma, which was experimental at the time. And, it had gotten like partial approval from the FDA because most physicians, they did not approve of it.
That's
They
what
said
Trump
it
had,
was
right?
it was rushed. So if that's one good thing I could thank Trump for, that's it. And so, and they told me what his regimen was, that they would keep him on his stomach for like 18 hours and then on his back for 6 hours. And so they, I think it was around, I would say October, about October 21st, 22nd. That is when he started to turn around. His they were trying to take him off the ventilator, and at first it was a challenge, but they said okay, they'll try again. And so yeah, at home I was my symptoms were fatigue, loss of taste. My mother-in-law at the time, she had to return to Freeport, and so it was EJ and we were home. Tristan was in Fort Lauderdale with her dad. And
not with me. She was in a hotel
well, she was
room
in a hotel.
next to me. I learned.
Yeah.
By herself.
By herself.
For a week before Joyce, sister came down from New Orleans to be with her.
So I answered the phone one day because I was washing dishes, and I all of a sudden, like, I just got tired. I couldn't breathe. And I didn't want to alarm my son because he was going through a lot. And I said, okay, let me go and sleep. And so I tried again, and it was taking me like 2-3 hours just to wash some dishes. Not me at all. But anyway, very good friend called and said, no, I was messaging. There's a group that we have at group of friends who are called Choices Crew. And so I was letting them know what's going on as well. And so Valdez Russell, he messaged me, he said, Joanne, how are you? And I said, Valdez, I'm not doing well. I said, I can't cook. I have a house full of food. I can't cook. I need to feed my son. I can't even wash dishes. I'm tired. He said, Joanne, say no more. And for the next week, Choices Crew got together and they brought meals to the house. The ACW called to find out, Joanne, what do you need? I said, I'm good. I'm covered. Thank you so much. My brother came. He brought food. And that was another, staring COVID in the face. Burkhoff. That was the first time he came to the house and had to leave food to the door. Because when we just walk inside, we hug, and what he said was, seeing me tell him bye through that window he couldn't, that was, that took a toll on him. And that took a toll on me too, because I'm like, I can't even hug my brother, And so Errol at the time, my son at the time, we had to apply to schools. He was interviewing for a head boy position at St. Anne's. He was swimming. I was no, he wasn't swimming. He couldn't swim, not at that time. But he was going through a lot, and he had a project for guidance, for the guidance counselor, for counseling, and it was, basically, what do you want to do? And there were some questions, and he wanted to be anaconda like his dad, and he said, "Mommy, can Daddy answer these questions?" I said, "No, he can't answer these questions." And so I had to answer the questions. He said, "Okay, Mommy, well, let's try shift it." And so that's what we did. And so I was able to answer some of the questions because I did some courses in business, etc. And so we were able to navigate through that. But Errol at the time was getting a little better. And so
but I was still sleeping.
He
right?
was still, he was
He was pretty much resting. You guys had the load.
Yes.
But I'll tell you something my son told me. During the 2 weeks that I was sleeping, he told me that one night he went to empty the garbage. I have a ring.com bell outside my door, right? And he heard my voice say, "EJ, it came through the ring.com." I was like, "What?" He told me this when I came back, of course.
Yeah.
This was during the time I was knocked right out. He said, "Dad, I heard you. You were like, EJ." So my spirit must have been traveling or something,
Yeah, because he came in the room. I remember that him and your mom were outside feeding the dogs, and he came in the room and he said, "Mommy," I said, "AJ." He said, "Can Daddy talk? Is Daddy up?" I said, my bottom lip started to tremble, and I said, "No, EJ." He said, "Does Daddy have his phone?" I said, "No, EJ," because I had packed the phone in his carry-on, and he didn't have it because he was still heavily sedated. And I said, "No." And so he started to explain, "Mommy, Daddy is ahead of us. And, so Daddy is traveling. He is further in time than we are." So, yes.
And my son deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so let's get back to Vida.
Now, when did you start to come around, Errol?
Okay, so I came around 2 weeks later. I would say the end of October, early, probably November 1, Joy.
Yeah, around the first of November.
Right. Like I said, I first opened my eyes up and whatnot, and then the nurse called Joy. Did she call you all?
We want a Zoom. Right. Because they said they were going to try and wake him up, and so we want a Zoom call, and so he was.
I was groggy. I saw groggy. Videos of myself afterwards. I finally got the courage to watch them about in June. Okay, and I remember when I first, when I saw all these people on the Zoom call, and some I didn't recognize, some I recognized. When they started talking to me, I was like, yeah. And then another thing I noticed about myself, my face was full of hair. I had a beard like that. So I was looking at the video, and I'm trying to figure who the person was. I learned from Joy, your hair grows faster when you're sleeping.
Oh, yeah. Still some time to rest and restore.
Exactly.
There's this thing that I have with him. I said, he said, "Joyanne, if anything happens to me, if you want to know if I'm okay, ask me the accounting equation."
That's true.
And so when I saw him groggy, I said, Errol, "What's the accounting equation?"
And I remember that I was like,
and he was like,
I said, man's liability equal owner's equity.
And
Why?
then he said that. I said, "Boy, you are real. You are real. Okay, you are real."
I said, why she
Boy,
asked me
you are
that?
real. Yeah.
So anyway, Abby, so as the day started to progress, I started to get a little better, but I still wasn't eating, and I didn't realize how small I was. I lost 50 pounds in 2 weeks. Because when I first came back to Nassau, everyone was like, my kids break down crying when they saw me because I looked so frail, and of course I was very frail. I could hardly. I mean, I was.
Yeah, and persons didn't recognize you because
Right,
my
a lot.
office staff, she didn't know who you were.
Right. I remember when I first went in the office, they looked at me like, yes. and I experienced a lot of that around Nassau as Joy started taking me around.
But even before you got back to Nassau, so after 2.5 weeks, you started to recover.
Right.
Then you were moved. You went a step down. Then I'm assuming from ICU to.
I stayed in that area. I stayed on that floor. I would say until about almost probably like the middle of November.
Almost before Thanksgiving.
Right.
Just around
exactly.
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Because before Thanksgiving, baby.
No. Yeah. Okay. So that would have been about around like November 10th or so.
Okay.
Yeah, November 10th or so.
Second week of November.
Right. He was still in the ICU floor.
And the jokey thing about it, my memory was so scattered all over the place, right? The days were confusing to me. We argued over the election. I was trying to figure why is America taking so long to have the election? Meanwhile, election then gone. Joyce said, the election finished. Donald Trump, Biden. When I said no, they had the election yet. And then another thing, why can't I watch my Dolphin game? Look here, everything was so confusing. I was like in a fog, I would say, for the first 3 weeks after I woke up. And then things started to slowly crystallize. And I'll never forget the day I picked this up.
Because he couldn't even hold his cell phone.
Right.
It was too heavy. He could not hold it.
First 3 weeks, I couldn't even bring a spoon to my mouth to feed myself. And it was, to me, the kind of guy I am who liked to be in control of everything. It was really, 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 really humbling to me because people had to feed me when they started to feed me, because at first I wasn't eating. When they took the stuff out of my throat, and now I could, but they still had the oxygen in my nose, and they started giving me like little water. As I drank the water, I would cough it up. So a speech language
pathologist,
which is what my second daughter's doing right now, doing a grad degree in, came in the room and she spoke with me and she worked with me on how to swallow. And it was so frustrating not being able to swallow anything. And they gave me soft foods to eat, and I would just and you could see some of the nurses were very impatient. They were like, you could see, they ain't got time for this. And I told my wife this afterwards, but she picked up on it while I was there. I made my mind, I don't want to live anymore. So I said to myself,
he had stopped eating.
The quickest way to die is to stop eating. And I can't eat anyway because everything coming up. So I stopped eating. And the nurses didn't even notice. They'd bring the food there and they'd come back and the food's still there. And I said, I'm not hungry. And I've been on for about 3 days. But Joy started asking me by the second day, hey, what you eat? I said, what you eat for breakfast? Oh, this is what they gave me. Did you eat? No, I wasn't hungry. And she noticed that for a couple of days, me saying, I'm not hungry. And she had a conversation with me. And that's when I told her, what did I say? I said, I just tired, man. I'm tired. I just want to go. I'm tired. And boy, Joy talked to me. She said, no, Errol, no. And she stayed on the phone with me. And when the nurse came in the room, she asked the nurse to bring me some food. And she stayed on the phone and watched me start to eat. And I only did it because she was watching me. And, I coughed up and everything. But this particular nurse was very patient. And she know my wife is watching too. And she slowly, fed me. And I ate probably half of the food.
Yeah.
And they took it back. And Joy was happy with that. And then breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Joy called and watched me eat. And I guess after 3 days, she figured, okay, he all right.
But I would call him every day to find out, Errol, what did you eat? Let me see the plate.
Yeah.
Let me see, let me eat everything that they give you. And it was a challenge for him too, because with COVID, once they brought the food into the room, they could not take it out to heat, to put in the microwave.
Right. So I was eating cold food.
He was eating cold food. And I was like, Lord have mercy. And I could not go to see him because the hospital was not allowing any visitors, you know. And so when they wanted to move him to another facility, a rehab center, because he needed therapy, to learn how to walk, all that stuff, both occupational and physical, and breathing and respiratory therapy as well. And so he tested positive. He was still positive for COVID.
Right.
And so they said they couldn't. The facility would not accept him. And then he had to go up on the 6th floor. That's the therapy.
I didn't go up on the 6th floor until I was negative. So I didn't go up on the 6th floor until I
tested negative.
Coming back negative. Okay. Meanwhile, my kidneys, I was doing dialysis. I hate dialysis. Okay. I hate that. My heart goes out to people that do dialysis. I hate it because it's just, it's boring. You sitting there for 4, 5, 6 hours in this machine, and I had to do it 3 times a week. And I will never forget the internist, black doctor, young lady. She said to me, she was talking to me about my kidneys and whatnot. She said, well, you're going to be on dialysis for the rest of your life. And I was laying in the bed and I looked at her. And I said, no, I won't. So she looked at me like I was crazy. And I pointed up in the sky and I said, the man upstairs won't allow that. God will not allow me to be on dialysis for the rest of my life. I just had that faith, you see me sitting here with joy, laughing with joy and everything. I am a testimony to God's healing power.
You are so right, my brother.
Real talk. A lot of, I still suffer from a little PT, post-traumatic, PT, whatever you call it.
PST.
I don't say the joy, I don't say that, but like if I coughed a little too much, I get scared. Because I don't want to go back in the hospital anymore. When I came, that experience taught me to appreciate the little things in life.
When were you released finally?
I was released December 31st or 30th? 31st. December 31st. And they didn't want to release me because I developed a bed sore.
Stage 4
bed sore for being in the bed for so long.
I was upset at that.
Yeah.
But yet again, I looked at that from 2 ways, 2 perspectives. And this is something that I always do, right? And I said, you know what? It's a bed sore. I am
nothing in the scheme of life compared
exactly. I said, I'm happy that he has that bed sore because he could have a perfect butt and be inside the grave. And so I thanked God for that.
Yeah.
Because I went over there on December 13th, thinking I was coming right back on the 18th with him. And I never forget they allowed visitors. When I went in that room and saw my husband, I didn't know who he was.
She was just staring at me.
I said, where's my pillar of strength? Like, this is not my husband. And it took me a while to adjust. He was like, Joy, come lay in the bed with me. I just want to touch you, Joy. Like, I said, Jesus.
Did I tell you how small I was?
Yes.
And I walked the bed on this way.
The frailty, I didn't see that tower of strength. And I said, God, you're going to work this out. And so he was expected to be released, and then they were telling me that they wanted to show me how to care for this bad wound. And when I looked at the bad wound, the doctor was cleaning it, and so they realized that there was some swelling. And I said, oh boy. Oh God.
Actually, I told them because they were doing what they call a debridement, cutting the dead necrotic skin off, so that it could start to close up, right?
And that's common with diabetics.
So
very common with diabetics.
So when the doctor pressed down on one of my cheeks, I said, and she was like, what happened? I say, it hurts, but it feels good at the same time.
And I'm just watching this abscess just
it was an abscess.
and ooze, and I said,
yeah. Of course, I didn't see. Joy was watching. Let me tell you something, Abby. This woman, this is my pillar of strength right here. Okay, because I don't know how many people are going to deal with a person with the kind of bad sore I had.
Do you think? Let me ask something though. Joya has studied in the medical area.
Yeah, she's a biologist, right?
Right. So she understood a lot of what may have been happening or whatever. Joya, do you think that aided to your ability to be able to understand, communicate, and to care for Errol?
Yes.
Because the doctors were very impressed when, like, they were showing us stuff, and she was like pointing her parts,
and I was asking them questions,
very pointed questions, you know.
Yes.
So I'm laying there, I'm like, oh, she teaches science for a living. She knows what she's saying, and they laughed, you know. But you know, when I came home, I couldn't even sit. Like I'm sitting down in the chair.
When did you return home? When did you all return
January
home?
1.
January 1st, you came home.
It was a new day.
And a new year, okay? It was a new year.
Right, okay? A new year.
And so you came home in a wheelchair, I'm assuming.
No, I didn't want a wheelchair. I walked. I just walked very slowly.
Pride took in. You reminded me of me. You know, you go over, you come back. You don't care how long it takes to get to customs.
I walked.
Take till tomorrow you can walk.
I walked, excellent. And sitting on a plane was difficult because I had to sit down. You know, so that was like 35 minutes of pain for me. Mm-hmm. But you know, I stayed cool and I just, you know, there. I kept saying to myself, "This can be over soon. This can be over soon." And when I got home, I laid on my side, and you know, my children were happy to see me. They were crying and whatnot because you know, later on I learned from them. Later on, they were crying so much because I looked so different. You know.
My son.
When did your daughter return? Because she was over there for a period. When did she come home, or she stayed?
No, she stayed for about, I would say about 3 weeks. Because what happened was she was they were in my. Thank God for my sister Valal and her husband Sydney.
Oh yeah.
Because once Errol was being airlifted, she spoke with her supervisor, and the supervisor said, "Valal, you could go as long as you want to go," because she wanted to come down to Florida because she knew Tristan was there by herself, and so her and her husband. They drove down and he flew back because she wanted to have a car just in case, you know, she's thinking, you know, go to the hospital. And she stayed there with Tristan. She was there for the first week by herself, and then Valal came. And so when we realized that, you know, they couldn't see Errol, and I said, okay, Tristan, you know, you could come home, or you could fly and go with Valal to New Orleans. And so they drove back to New Orleans. And actually it was cheaper to fly from New Orleans than Fort Lauderdale. And she was in school at the time. And I thank Dr. Adams, one of her professors, who was so understanding, because, you know, Tristan was just out of it mentally, but she was able to catch up. Once she realized that Dad was out to Claire, and she was able to, you know, catch up for about a month's worth of work. And so, you know, and she successfully completed the semester.
So she was home for January when Errol returned home.
Yeah, so the
family was back together again.
Yes. Yeah, the family was yes.
Right. Yes. And she had, like Joy said, she was there for 3 weeks, and then she left.
The 17th or so.
She left and went home, and then her and my son, they came back for Christmas.
Yeah.
And they met up with Joy. So
okay.
So Christmas I was on. You know, I was talking to them on WhatsApp video.
Okay.
While they were doing what they were doing. But
now, when you came home, what was life like? Trying to return to normal now.
The most difficult thing to me was the fact that I couldn't sit down properly. I couldn't drive my vehicle. So my wife had to take me everywhere. And so I just, you know, lay down in the back of the vehicle. But other than that, man, I was happy to be home. It was great. You know,
walking had improved. Your strength had improved. What What were you doing to try to enhance those things? Did you start strength training, or what did you?
I started walking every morning. Joy and I walked. We walked for, I would say, from February to June, every morning, 5 days a week.
Okay.
That improved my strength a lot.
Now, bear in mind, he did 6 weeks of aggressive therapy.
Yeah, I was going to
while he was in the hospital.
I was going to get to that,
Yeah.
but I saw Abby came to the. She's talking about the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Let's go back to when I was over there. When I finally started testing negative for the COVID virus, then they moved me from the COVID floor, as they call it, which was the second floor, up to the sixth floor. The sixth floor was basically rehabilitation.
Okay.
They put me on an aggressive, like Joyce said, an aggressive regime, where I did about 4 hours of therapy, physiotherapy, a day, 7 days a week.
And I'm sure they pushed you. That's how come you were able to walk.
No.
You didn't let them push you.
They were gentle with me, but I pushed myself.
Okay.
I'll give you an example.
Good.
If they tell me to do something 2 times, I would do it 3. And they'd be like, no, don't overexert yourself. And I kept telling them, I have to get out of this hospital. As simple as walking up 2 steps, it was difficult at first for me to do. And so when I first did it, I walked up the 2 steps, and then I went to the 3rd step, and the guy was like, he was scared I was gonna fall. I said, I'm not gonna fall. And then I came back down, and if I had to do, let's say 3 reps, I would do 5 reps. So I pushed myself so much so to the point that my strength came back so fast. My thighs, my calves went from flabby little things to they built up quickly and everything, you know. And they loved working with me because they said they loved my attitude.
Now, what about dialysis? When did that stop?
The dialysis stopped, I would say, that was like coming to the end of November, I think, Joy? I remember the doctor.
That was around, right. It was like after your birthday. Yeah.
Right, after my birthday.
Yeah.
Like close to Thanksgiving. Because I remember the doctor, because I was doing dialysis 3 times a week. And I remember the week when it started to stop. That week, that Monday, they told me, okay, you're not doing dialysis today. Because every day they were checking my blood. Every day, right? Every day. I tell Joy I was getting on needle. I was getting stick every single day. Then I had this thing in my neck hanging. When they pulled it out, things were like that long in my neck. I didn't realize it was that long. Then I had something in my arm. I had something here. I mean, I was the bionic man. But anyway, when the doctor, after a week of not doing dialysis, I never forget it, the nephrologist came in the room. He said, Mr. Thompson, I said, yes, sir. He said, you're a free man. I said, what are you talking about? He said, your kidneys are up and working. Just take care of them. I said, I will. But let me just tell you a funny story with that. While I was doing dialysis, I wasn't peeing at all. Okay? I wasn't peeing. Even though I had the catheter in me, it was just little drips in the catheter. And when my kidneys, God reached in me and touched my kidneys. And it started with I started peeing a little more. And they took the catheter out. And, I would just pee in a little cup.
They were measuring his urine and cc's.
Right. One night I'm sleeping. I woke up 2:30 in the morning. Wet right up.
The faucet came on.
Wet right up. I called the nurse. Beep, beep, beep. The nurse came in. Mr. Thompson, what's wrong? I said, look, y'all got to do something with the security around here. She said, what? I said, someone came in here and threw a bucket of pee on me. Man, the woman look at me there. And I'm dead serious, because I'm convinced someone came in the room and threw a pee on me. She said, Mr. Thompson, that's you. I said, me? She said, you did that. I said, really? She said, don't worry, I'm going to clean you up. She left and came back with, new bed sheets and everything. And by this time, I got to move myself a bit, I got to move myself. Still couldn't walk, but I got to move myself in the bed now. So they didn't have to, pull me and do it. So I just do up, and she changed the sheet and put a new gown on me and everything. And I just laid in bed. I was like, whoa, I peed myself up. I was happy. I actually peed myself up. And from that day, the big thing that I used to do like this, all of a sudden, started that. And man, next thing I had to bring 2 bottles in there because I paid so much. And the rest is history.
What about your weight? How much weight did you lose
I
initially?
lost 50 pounds. When I went over there, I was weighing 272 pounds. When they weighed me, because apparently the bed can weigh you, they weighed me in the bed, laying in the bed. I was 222 pounds. Okay? When I first started to walk, and they said, look, you're going to go to therapy now. Do you have any clothes? So I tell them, give me that bag my wife sent. Now, all the lines went down. When I opened up the thing, all in there was boxes and t-shirt. What the heck? One pants. So after they got me to start standing up, right? Now I finally got the courage to let go of the bed and I could stand my body up. So I sat in the bed and I put the pants on and I stood up and the pants dropped straight on the ground. I was like, what? This is a pants that could fit me. It dropped straight on the ground because I was too small. Anyway, Joy took care of that after I got home. When I first came home, I wasn't eating much because my appetite was so contracted because, I was eating such a little bit of food in the hospital. And Jesus, Joy cooked some curry mutton and white rice one day.
And that the rest was history, Joy.
That gate's open because that's the first. I think I'd been home like 2 weeks ago, Joy.
Yeah.
And I said, Joy, could I have some more? And she was like, you want more food?
Because by the time he was eating out of a saucer.
Yeah, I was just eating a little bit of food and I'd put it up and that's okay. I'm not hungry. And this day I was like, can I have some more food? And she got more and I sat there and I said, man, this tastes good. The rest is history. So
he's not stopped eating ever since, Joy.
No, he hasn't stopped eating ever since.
But I put back on I still smaller than I was before. You saw me. I put on 30 pounds.
Yeah, which was needed.
Yeah,
which was needed for sure.
I'm in the 250s now.
So let me ask you, where are you now today, Errol, in terms of your health?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm fine. I'm
doing much better.
Yeah.
Are you having any symptoms, post-COVID symptoms? Anything? Some people tend to have issues. Are you having anything you feel?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, sometimes my breathing, I get a little concerned about my breathing, but it's okay.
And when you exercise,
yes, but this watch also tests my oxygen levels.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's always in the 90s, so I'm fine. I thank God for that. My only problem is Joy and I were talking about this. We got to start it up again. We stopped walking in July. We got to get back out to walking because I loved walking. We were walking, like I say, 5 days a week, and that helped a lot. That brought back my strength a lot.
Your diabetes and your hypertension is pretty much controlled and stable.
Yes.
Thank God for that.
I stopped drinking sodas and stuff like that. I like to eat, but I still don't eat as much as I used to eat, and I don't drink sweet stuff. Yeah. So
you're paying more attention to your health now,
yes,
more than ever.
And I don't smoke cigars anymore. When I came home, of course, every time I tell my friends, they get upset with me. I had up at 7 cigars in the fridge. I broke them up and threw them away because I can't smoke anymore because of I don't want to risk my lungs being compromised. I don't drink alcohol like how I used to when I was younger. So I think of my lungs and my kidneys all the time.
Oh well, going forward, the things that you used to do,
no,
you can't and don't want to because the Lord kept you here for purpose and a reason.
Yes.
It's not about you anymore.
No,
it's about Him. You know, more so.
I mean,
now, finish, Cheryl, as you were saying.
I was gonna say, but because without God's grace, I wouldn't have been here. But like my son said, I like what my son says. He said, "Daddy, you weren't supposed to go yet."
Yeah, it's not your time, but I mean, it's an experience. So He is taking you down to cause you to recognize who really is God and who is in control. Yeah. Now, Joy, as a caregiver, because a lot of times the patient really is just there. I mean, they're just being cared for and attended to. But as the caregiver in all of this, what would you say to others through your experience?
Patience. Have as much patience as you possibly can. show empathy because the patient is relying on you, and don't show fear or doubt, and you don't want to put them, you don't want to basically make them feel worse than they already do.
Yeah.
And and just pray, pray, because i I've never been down this journey before, and caring for a bad wound is not one of the easiest things to do. Dressing and packing and all that stuff, and and then cooking and seeing meat and all that, it could it could mess with your psyche a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would say that the love that I have for Errol, and knowing what he would have been through, that helped me tremendously, you know, and I just wanted him to get better. And I knew that it wasn't something he could have done on his own.
Yeah. And
What
as,
a,
oh,
sorry, Errol?
and as the patient, that me being the patient, um, like sometimes I felt like I was a burden to her, even after I got home. Because every couple of days you had to change the wound, dressings, and I joy.
But sometimes twice a day.
Yeah, initially, initially twice a day. And I felt some type of way about that, And I finally told her, and she said, "Errol, that's no problem." I said, "Do I just feel like I'm a burden to you, man? I feel like, She said, "No, Errol, you're not a burden to me. I'm just glad to see that you're getting better." And I thank God that, from the wound to go from where it was to where it is now. I mean, I still have a little, but nothing compared to when I came home. I can live my life normally, and it's healing. It's healing slowly, and I want to thank Nurse Dawn Aubrey Gator at Island Ostomy. She through God, she worked miracles on me. Yeah.
And, thinking of all of this, though, if you don't have medical insurance, what do
well,
you think?
if I didn't have medical insurance, right now you'd have been talking to Joy by herself. And y'all would have been.
Because, for one, you could not have been
me as a
airlifted.
memory.
No hospital would have accepted you.
No.
And people you really don't understand and appreciate the fact that you are able to have health insurance, because a lot of people can't, but the mere fact that you had it, you had assurance from God and you had health insurance that enabled you to get the best of care that you were able to receive.
Yeah.
Katina Roach at Bahama Health, that's another one of our angels. I called her directly, and she was on my case. I thank her very much for that.
Many people have gone into the hospitals and didn't make it, even with the health insurance in Doctor's Hospital or wherever. Even if they were airlifted, some did not make it.
Yeah.
You understand? But the mere fact that you are here is truly a living testimony of what God was able and has been able to do.
Yes.
Your life truly is in His hand.
It is. And, watching, TV and whatnot and seeing the deaths from COVID, it touches me. It really touches me because, I've been there. I was close to death, So my heart goes out to those families, man. I said, boy, that could have been Joy and the kids, And so I just thank God all the time. I just thank God all the time. I thank God for His healing grace all the time. I can't thank Him enough. Sometimes my prayers are just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't ask for nothing, because I'm so happy to be home. I'm so happy to be healthy. My mind is clicking just how it always was. My body
You're back to work. And
I'm back to work,
functioning very well.
I'm moving around, doing what I want to do, Yeah.
Joya, let's talk about support. I mean, that network. How important is that as a caregiver?
Listen, I can't begin to comment. Because, like I said, God sent persons at the right time.
Yeah.
Because I had to alienate myself from what was around me and focus on what God was doing for us as a family.
Yeah.
Because no one else could have done it. And I'll never forget, at one point, I'd gotten some news from the hospital, and I was just sitting in the bedroom just crying. And I said, God, no, I'm not doubting you, God. I am not doubting you. I am not doubting you. And at that time, and about a few minutes later, the phone rang, and it was Bishop Boyd. And he said, how are you? And I explained what was going on with me. And I said, am I wrong to cry? Does it mean that I'm doubting God? He said, no, no. And the reassurance he gave me, oh my God. Reverend Willis Johnson from St. Anne's Church, God had her to call me at the right time. Joanne, I just need to pray with you. Father Bartlett, I just need to pray with you. And so I told Errol, I said, it's good to have people in your life who can be there for you when you need it the most. Because sometimes you don't even know what you need. You just feel helpless. And I had those times when I felt helpless. And so, Mr. Algernon Cargill, I'll never forget, he said, and Georgette, he said, Joanne, when you applying, I know you're applying for schools, you need the schools for Arrow. I can do that for you. And I said, no, Mr. Cargill, thank you very much. I can do it, because I still had to be a mother to my son. And my daughter was, thank God, she was with my
Your
sister.
sister.
Yes. And so, I had to thank God for that. So, and for those persons. And that's why I call them angels.
And I have to thank all the prayer warriors out there, because when I came back and I started moving around now, so when people recognized me, all I heard was, I was praying for you. I was praying for you.
His mother, oh my God. Yes.
My mom and her group.
Yes.
Group of the government high people. They were doing some praying for me, and her other groups that she's in. I just all I could say when I saw people was, thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you. I said,
And that brings up a good point. When people get sick, a lot of times they don't want anybody to know. I know of persons who've had COVID, who've been locked away, and people did not even know, but people don't understand how, people are going to gossip and talk and whatever. We have no control over that. But if people know, one thing they can do for you is pray.
And I'm happy you said that, because once, Errol was diagnosed, and, like I said, we saw what was happening. I sent in several groups I'm in. I told them exactly what was going on with my husband, that my family came down with COVID. And I said, I know social media, it didn't matter, because if God allowed this to happen to us so that we could help someone else just by our experience, then fine. And so, and I told the story, and I put it in, like I said, in different groups, and I told them, what regimen we were using, etc. And, persons messaged me later on after, COVID, we had survived COVID, and was asking, John, you said, what was that treatment you used again? What did you use? And I said, I still have some. I'll bring it to you, And so, yes, like I told her, when you're sick, you need those angels. Okay. it's not something that you have to do alone. And for anyone who's out there, I would say, call on your people. God placed people in our lives for a reason, you know? And so sometimes, we're so burdened that sometimes we can't pray that prayer. And when you're down, you need someone, you need people to pray for you, and they need to know what they need to pray for. Not just, cover this one or cover. Speak directly, like how Errol said, God came and touched his kidneys. Speak directly to what is going on. So, I did not keep that a secret.
I'll say something to Reverend Billis Johnson at our church. She said something profound to me. She called me, we were talking, and I said, boy, Rev, he obviously have a reason for me to be here, because I should be gone. She said, no, Errol, the fact that you're alive is the reason. Say you give hope to other people, hope in the healing power of God, hope in God's grace. Man, I didn't even think about that part. I just thought, I guess I was like, God, was he keep me alive so I could go on mission or something, But like
when we go through experiences like that, because I know after my experience, my time is not up as yet. When our time is up, we will leave.
Yeah.
Yes.
But obviously, we still have a job to do, and that's to bring honor and glory to His name and to let others know what He has done for us. So
that's why when you ask
because many didn't make it.
Exactly.
Yes, that's true.
That's why when you asked me in the summer to come on the show, you notice I didn't hesitate.
No.
Because like Reverend Johnson said, use this as an opportunity to spread God's word, spread the fact that God is a healer and God is with us. So I just anyone
and things happen to us, not just for us. It's for us to comfort others who will probably go through the storm.
Like she said, bring hope.
Well,
so this prayer group, I want to thank them as well, because I Miss Audrey and her team, and I remember, they called and they prayed with me, and the reassurance, she said, Joanne, in a year, she said, this will be behind you. And I said, okay, Audrey, and they prayed with me, and I think it was last week, Tuesday. Yes. We come from taking the children, dropping them off at college. And so I was sitting in the study, and I was just looking up at the books and looking at the computer. And I said, wow, look
almost
at
a year.
A year. I said, I did not know whether or not my daughter would have been able to return to university, whether my son would be able to go to university. I said, God. And I just had a moment, because, and we're representing them, actually, University of Vermont.
Howard, our son's at Howard, our daughter's at the University of Vermont.
In the grad, we're representing them. And yes, and look at where we are now.
Look at Errol a year later.
Yes, look at Errol a year later, and I just thank God. I said, without Him, we're nothing, literally.
And so many have not made it, eh?
And
so many have passed since the third wave.
Yes.
And Abby, one thing that, I spoke to Joy about this after I got home. My dad had just died.
Right.
And I was in hospital by myself. So I had many moments of just crying, because I mourned him by myself, basically, And one night I was sleeping and I woke up like 2-something that morning. And out of the side of my eye, I could have sworn he was in the room with me. I saw him in all black, just looking at me. Like out the side of your eye. Yeah, man, I'll never forget that. But I just thank God, man. I thank God. I'm here. I can sit down and talk with you all. Just have a good time.
When you started, it was COVID-19. You've since moved on from that.
Yeah.
And we're kind of still in a wave, third wave in our country.
Yeah.
So many families have lost loved ones in twos and threes. Okay. My family, we lost my mother-in-law this summer. And we don't know who's next. You just don't know. But I am so happy that we've been able to bring both of you on to share this very encouraging, life-changing story about COVID. And I said I wanted both of you because both of you went through the journey. The children are away from us, but this was a family experience. And we see where you are today, Errol and Joya. You were doing fine. I mean, because you had it yourself, but you, thank God, you were not as sick as he was. Because imagine if both of you were sick like that. Your children would have been in a different phase, probably. But yes, we're grateful and thankful when Errol finally showed up at the office, because I was calling Joya, but she wasn't answering me, and I could understand that because of what she was going through. And when we finally connected, it was like a moment. I just had to look at him and hold him and like, oh my gosh, he's actually back and he's here. And then hearing Joya's story about being the caregiver and all of this, and because she's the one who had to make the decision. She was the one who the doctors communicated with, and she said how the doctors say, let's prepare for the funeral because he's going to die. But God has been good and faithful to you all and to the family, and he continues to be faithful in spite of.
Yes.
Continues to be faithful.
One thing I'll say before we go, my neighbor, he's moved since, but I mean, he said to me when I came home, he was happy to see me. He said, "Boy, glad you're back, because now Joy could sleep." I said, "What you talking about, man?" He said, "Man, Errol, Joyce, I would look out the window, the light in your bedroom never turned off." So I spoke to her, but she said I couldn't sleep. Said she couldn't sleep. She would just be up. So when I finally got home,
the light off now.
I like stay up late, but at least she sleep.
I could sleep. I could not sleep.
I can't begin to imagine all that, It reminds me some ways of what my journey, but hey, we're all here because of God's faithfulness.
Well, your journey.
It's goodness. So
your journey. I didn't get my eyes checked till you came back. I refuse to go to anybody else.
Well, Errol, you now have your story to write, please. So both of you all get going. Put it on paper, because it will be an encouragement and source of strength to so many others after the fact. So I would encourage you both to consider putting it to paper.
I'll let Joy write it and I'll edit it.
And then have it published. I'll never forget Dr. Miles, because he always said too many of our Bahamian stories are in the grave. And you both have a story to tell, a family's journey through COVID. That's your title. Something. Yeah. So it has been an exciting evening. So many people are just giving God thanks and saying how good God is. The responses, God is grateful. God is good, to God be the glory, amen, and wonderful family. And, they were so in tune that they don't have no questions, because you guys were so detailed and powerful in your story and what you told everyone. So this evening has been an exciting evening. I'm so happy to see you both again. You all are my peeps. You all know that.
Oh, yeah.
And we pray and hope that God would continue to keep us all and keep Tristan and Errol Jr., who are away from you guys.
Yes.
And Errol continue to stay healthy and be healthy.
And Joy continue to
stay healthy. And take care of Joy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But we definitely want to say to our audience, everyone is saying, thanks for sharing. Jesus, God be glorified. Someone says you need to share it on Zedness because it's powerful, but Facebook is much wider and bigger than Zedness. So, the world will be able to hear.
I was actually on David Wallace's show in March.
Right. I remember you telling me about that.
But obviously, this is a big audience.
Yeah. And then you have Joy on to bring that aspect, another side of it. So Your swim people are watching, of course. I see your family's on, Joya also, your sister and her husband, and so
Thank you
many
very
other
much,
persons.
everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your prayers and your support, especially Valel and Sydney,
My sister
Melinda,
Lana.
Sister Lana, Melinda, my mother, my brother Dion, my sister Philippa, my sister Tamia, my daughter Tristan, my son Harold, my daughter Aries. I just,
Your mom, what's her name?
I call my mom right away. Marge Morrison is her name.
Oh, okay.
I call her my prayer warrior. Her and my brother Dion, they're my prayer warriors because when my brother said he get in the closet, oh Lord, you know something happening there. He say, I go in the prayer closet for that.
To God be the glory.
Thank everybody for their support. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you guys for agreeing to coming on.
Thank you.
To share your story.
Thanks for
I'm
inviting
going to say thank you to our listening audience. Next month, of course, is Breast Cancer Month. And of course, we're going to highlight some of the ladies in our country during the month of October each week for them to share and talk about their journey, because COVID is happening, but plenty of people are still being diagnosed with cancer on a daily basis and can't even get the kind of care and help that is really needed. So we're going to highlight these women during the month of October and to keep that in the forefront, because every day someone is being diagnosed.
Send us the links because we won't watch it too, okay?
Yeah, it's pretty much on Palmdale Vision Center. All you need to do, I'll send out the ads and Google Palmdale Vision Center or on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
But thank you all to our listening audience. It's been a privilege bringing this show to you all, Mr. and Mrs. Errol and Joya Thompson, the family that has survived COVID.
Thank God.
And for other families who are in the journey right now, continue to be encouraged. How best you can support persons, please do. And then we as a country need to begin to practice safe policies in that, even though it may be open up to a point, please wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands.
Yes.
And don't allow persons to be in your presence with their masks off. And then for those who don't want to get vaccinated for whatever reason, I mean, it's your choice. But if you choose not to, know that you are a greater risk for getting the disease. So thank you once again.
Vaccinated, by the way. sorry.
Well, once COVID hit your house, I think it opens up your heart and mind for most people that they need to. And then, of course, what the U.S. has decided to do. Yep. After November, you won't be able to enter the country without vaccination. So Bahamians who like to travel now, you will have to consider taking it, or you won't be traveling through the U.S. to do what you need to do. The show has been brought to you by Palmdale Vision Center. My name is Dr. Ebby Shera Jackson, and I want to say thank you to all. And I don't want my guests to leave the show. We will end the show, and then we will just briefly summarize. But thank you for listening, and we want you to have a good evening. Remember to be safe out there, and let's support and help each other out as best we can. This is Share Your Story. Good evening.
Good evening.